Smith's, and he is a fine, fine blacksmith. You're gonna be in for a treat here. He does some great work. Please join me in welcoming one of our own, James Makeley.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure to be working here in Colorado for 16 years now, and I started working at Dragon Forge with Craig May. Proud to have been his apprentice for several years, and that's where I got to meet and work with Rory, Craig's son. So we worked together for a number of years, and we've gotten to do a few things together since then. Been a great time. Today what we're working on, we'll be working before lunch and after lunch. We're going to be making a miniature Bick Anvil. I have a finished one right here. This is our product we're aiming to produce today. We're going to do the forging work. I'll then, along the way and perhaps later, discuss heat treatment. We're not going to do that today. We're going to do the forging only. And then this is a finished piece that I made this week. This will be in the silent auction. It is completely finished. It's been heat treated and it's been polished. These came about because a few years back, 2 or 3 years back, I was looking for a class to take. I thought would be a really cool one. I was looking around. Found a class listed. Tom Latané was doing one where you produced a Bick Anvil. Teams, pairs of men working together would each produce 2. It would be forge welded out of several separate pieces of metal. So you were working for several days, sledgehammers to do it. And I said, that's the class for me. And it was very short notice. It was really bad timing. I couldn't make it. I was really, really bummed out. But one day, behind where I work, there was a set of railroad tracks. And during lunch, I was wandering around and kicked up a piece of railroad rail. Rory, I'm going to steal that for a moment. This is where we are starting. I've already warmed it up in advance. This is a slice taken out of a piece of the steel railroad rail. Smoking. Dan.
You have some advice on cutting it?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'll get to that real quick. So I found a 1-inch thick slice along the railroad tracks, and I picked it up because when they join the tracks, they have to make a weld. They'll cut one end. They cut the scrap end off so that they can join the ends together. There it was laying, about 1 inch wide. And I picked it up and I turned it over like this. And I said, aha, I know what that looks like. This looks roughly like the shape of a Bick Anvil. I said, that shouldn't be too hard to pull off. And so I said, there, consolation prize. I didn't get to take my class, but I'll work on making one all the same. So that's where the idea sprang from. Since then, these, if you can come up with a thin slice, that is great. This is 1 1/4 inches wide. As narrow as 1 inch would work for this. 1.5 inches will work. You got more work to do. It's a little bit massive. This is 1 1/4 inches. It's nice for what we're doing. If you go to cut this, the first thing is that this is a very tough steel. After they've been ridden on by trains, they are work hardened, very hard. So what I did is I torch cut a section of a rail large enough to fit into a propane forge. I heated it up slowly to start with, then I heated it up to bright yellow, buried it in vermiculite and left it for 3 days. Metal trash can full of vermiculite, buried it in there. After it annealed into vermiculite, the bandsaw will cut it. It will cut really nicely. There is a slice for the iron and a hat over there right now. And you'll notice that what I did is, after I cut it in a bandsaw, I put it in a milling machine and milled it. I've decided that's not necessary if you're going to be heating and forging. But if you're going to heat treat something you've bandsaw cut and it's tool steel, I really recommend removing the bandsaw cut lines. You can get cracks on those. This case, not necessary. Rory is going to be my striker today. So Rory will begin by heating this part up here. We're going to start by making what will become the shank to fit in the hardy hole. What's that?
You're making it 1.5 inches so it'll fit my hand?
Let me hold the finished one here so that you can see it, Carl. There's the finished one. My intention with this is you have a square section. There's a square section to the shank and a long taper. And so this can be set in a hardy hole in the anvil, it can be gripped in a vise, or it can be set into a wood stump, whichever. Should work just fine. So this is where we are going to begin working. If you'd like to pass that around.
There's vermiculite in iron and a half, so get your ticket, get your vermiculite, you're gonna need it.
Am I correct in my belief that you can't buy vermiculite in Colorado anymore?
I've heard that, but, and I haven't bought any lately, but.
I heard that.
One,
I'm unfamiliar with vermiculite. Why did you need to anneal it in vermiculite? What does it do for it?
the reason that the rail is annealed is it is super hard. It was a piece of actual.
Yeah, I understand the annealing,
Yeah.
but why vermiculite? I don't know what that
Oh,
does.
vermiculite is a super insulator. It's used in landscaping a lot. It's a form of loose, fluffy mica, and it's a great insulator. And so if you bury a hot item in it, it's going to cool very slowly.
Versus just putting it in a bucket of sand.
Right. Sand works, wood ashes work, vermiculite works really well. Yeah. Doesn't melt, doesn't burn. It's great stuff. And so that's just what I have. That's what I prefer to use.
Okay. Yeah, I really plan on making one of these. If I can't get my hands on vermiculite and sand works, I've got a ton of that.
And that, sand, wood ashes. So, you know, as long as the sand's dry. If it's wet, that's going to take.
Sand for molding.
Yeah. One of the things I did first is I made a set of box jaw tongs because you want to hold your work securely. And I found I didn't have anything to do that right off. So I made these and I fitted them to the web to reach across and grab the web of the railroad rail. So there's a slight curvature to the box portion of the jaw so they grip really tight. Because I found if they're straight, they don't hold well. It wiggles around in there. Yeah, I know the drill, but I need the reminder.
Try to size the slice of rail for this hardy clip. That's great, thank you. I mean, if you had an 1.25 inch hardy, would you go for an 1.25 inch piece?
Right. No. When you're forging the mast, the wheels roll on. When you're forging that down, you can start with a pretty good chunk of metal and get it square. So if you have an 1.25 inch hardy, you've got plenty to work with there. Cool. Now I usually work in a power hammer, and that's how I started making these. So it was a little bit of a trick to learn to do them by hand with Rory as my striker, but I wanted to show that technique instead because you can make them with a power hammer, or you can have a buddy come help you. Sledgehammer work, some simple tools, it's really possible you can make a really, really nice product. So that's what I wanted to show here. We will likely at some point in time make use of the big blue hammer as well, just to help speed things along a little bit. But I'll tell you when.
I'll notice that last piece of steel going by probably.
I'm standing right there, right?
You're standing, yes, here on the near side, and I'll be on the far side. Let me hit this for a minute myself. The easiest thing in the world to do is to get it out of square. Let's go again just a little more. Okay, cool. That looks real good. Little out of square, we'll get that on the next heat. What happens right away, what begins happening is the hardest thing to control, the web is very narrow and it wants to buckle. So you just have to work with that, straightening along the way. I'll show a little bit more of that. This is, you have that, Carl? This is too narrow in the web. So we are going to upset that. But first we're going to make this so it'll sit in the hardy hole. Then we'll upset the web down. I preheated this. There's a little electronic kiln back there, a preheat oven. I preheated it to 500 degrees before throwing it in the fire. It's a pretty good chunk of steel, pretty massive. If you just throw it into a hot fire and start heating the edges, that's not good for the fabric of the steel. The edges are going to get really hot while the inside's cold. So preheating the steel is a great idea. 500 degrees minimum. You can do that in a kitchen oven. Doesn't take time if it can just sit while you're doing something else. Kitchen oven, or get your forge if you have a gas forge. Get it nice and hot, shut it off, give it a moment, set the piece in there, walk off. Let it heat slowly without any gas on. Here, Rory, while you're doing that, let's switch tongs so we'll keep those cold. Thank you. That's happened too many times. About ready? Cool. Aha, that's a bigger grip than I thought. I'll get it in a bit, Alan. Thank you, though. All right, cool. We're close to the size we want. We are a little bit out of square. Okay, Rory, we're going to hit him like this, off-centered.
Towards you?
Yeah, towards. Yeah. No, that's fine. I'm holding it diagonal, so just, yeah. Sorry. Okay. All right, we're a little bit more square there. What happens though in doing that is it wants to twist really bad. Can you grab me a twisting wrench off on the wall? Twisting, or a pipe wrench, something right over there. Hup. Thank you. So we're going to just straighten it up a little bit here real quick. All right. I want to make sure we don't go too small. I've got a target size I'm looking for. Grab your hammer. We're just going to flatten them up a little. There you go, sir. Now, I'm not real well practiced at striking with somebody. I wish I was much more practiced at it. So I've got to talk to him a lot more than people who are used to doing that. And if I try judging it by eye, you know, I'm going to miss my target. I'm going to be undersized before I know it. So keep the calipers handy here to do this. Well, we have a 1-inch Hardy shank here we're dealing with, and that's what I want to produce. So above that, we've got a shoulder or a boss that'll rest on the anvil face. And so what I want is I'm going to leave about 1.5 inches square. So that's what I'm looking for, roughly 1.5 inches square here. And at that point in time, we'll butcher it so that we can then draw that shank, 1-inch shank down from there. Yeah. Faster, faster. Come on, man. I do not know what this steel is. I wish I did. I've been trying to do some research. The best I've come across is that on average, railroad rail is something comparable to the 1080, 1084 range. What's that? A lot of nickel, a lot of manganese as well is what I've read. Now this piece of rail did have marks on the sides, CF and I or CF and H, and learned that comes from Pueblo. Yeah, that was the plant in Pueblo, so I know where it was rolled. Cool. So let's take a look here real quick. Thank you, sir. All right, we got a ways to go yet, don't we? That's cool. Good. Sorry, your turn. That's what happens when you turn it at the wrong time. I should be turning it on before my hit rather than before his. However, I am not a drummer. All right, let's see what we have. All right, much closer. All right, we're going to hammer it just a little more, Rory. Real quick. Rory, can you hang on to this for me? I don't want to close the jaws. Take this pair of tongs real fast and just hold him under here. All right, let's take a look. Let's see what we have there. All right. There you go. Yeah. And tilt it towards me slightly. That's good. That's probably enough. All right. All I want to do there is prevent a cold shot from happening here. It's got a little twist to him. Take care of that twist along the way. We're really close. We're just going to smooth them up, call that good. Let me brush it real fast. I like to brush the metal along the way, help keep it much nice and cleaner. This steel is such a nice steel as opposed to 836 that it cleans really well, really easy. But do your brushing when you're done hammering, at the end of the heat. Brush it up right before you go back into fire. Don't waste your heat by brushing it when it comes out of the fire. Heat's just going away. Get out of the fire and work, brush afterwards. All right. We'll be butchering it very soon and reducing, so I'm going to set my calipers for actually just a little more than 1 inch, maybe 1 1/8 inch, something like that, so I can end shy of my target and forge down afterwards. Is everyone able to hear me all right while I'm talking? Because I'm talking with my back turned to you all. Okay. Not as funny as you. Wish I was. Funny looking. I know who to blame for that. Come by it honestly. So like I was saying, I don't know what steel this is. I've made my best guess. I know it's around something similar to 1080. Like I said, I'm going to treat it like it's a very fine tool steel, preheating it. I'm going to use the old cliche method of check on it with a magnet to check when it's non-magnetic in terms of hardening it. We'll talk about that some more later, but that's what I have to do right now to make my best guess. Just, yeah, hand it to me. Thank you. Light. We're going to smooth them up. All right, I'm going to look at it real quick. It's not bad. A little bit right here, Rory. All right, that's good. At this point in time, we're going to mark it. We're going to butcher this hot mass so that we can isolate a portion away that will become the hardy shank. What I'm going to do first of all, I want to mark a line around it for where I'm going to do this. Yeah, if you can hang on to that. Wrong box. Here we go. Yeah, thank you. Let's see what our length is here. About 2 inches. I want to leave about a ½ an inch of this mass without touching it. And this is about 1.5 inches wide. That's a little too tall. This is 1.5 inches. We'll use that. Rory, if you'll stand them straight up and down on the anvil. For marking it fairly quickly and straighten them that way a little, this is one of the easiest ways I've found for marking the hot metal. Turn them. Here, I'm going to sharpen this real fast. Can't get a good mark. Peter, can I make use of this sander real quick?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Okay, turn them. Turn them. Turn them. This is a little taller than what I was wanting, so we're going to go just below the marks. Wow, turn it one more time. All right, they're close to lining up. Box of tricks here. Hold that for me. These are my power hammer butchers, but they'll work in this case.
Rory's is human power hammer.
All right, there. Yeah, go. Okay, harder. Whoop, yeah, it bounced hard. It's cold, so it's wanting to really, really bounce. We're going to do that again. Yeah. All right, that's better. Yep. Okay. Yep. That's good. Again. Yes. This- It's cold, which is why the tool's kicking out. Which is to say it's still glowing red, but that's really cold for this metal. The tool is bouncing and kicking hard, but that will be a registration mark we can find when it's really hot and we come out of the fire. I'm not real fond of a butcher that has a very sharp edge to it. I like one that's a little rounded. This is still pretty narrow. It's less than 1/8 of an inch on that edge, but it's rounded and softened. There are no real sharp edges to this, and I've got this convex edge that comes down across here, so it leaves that convex when I bite on it, and I feel like the metal moves away from that a little easier. Like I said, these are made for the power hammer, but they work here. Yes. Now the handle is just A36. The tool itself is 4130. It's just a scrap piece. It already had the nice rounded edge to it. It's a section of a circular cut. And 4130 is really tough. But I found that I heat it and I water quench it. I heat it, I think 1600 degrees, water quench, and then I only stress relieve it at 350 for an hour. And it's plenty tough enough for use in a power hammer. I like it. It's not too hard.
What do you use to weld it on the handle?
It's TIG welded. It's TIG welded on regular steel fill rod. So it's A36 handle, regular. I've never yet had one break on a weld like that, but I bevel it, so I try to get a 100% weld. I preheat the tool steel above 500 to do the welding. Okay. And then TIG weld it while it is hot, and then I do my heat treatment afterwards. Thank you. All right, set him in there. One more. What? Yeah. 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 All right, let's try and go harder here. Just really hit him. Cool. One more. Oop. Here. We're going to do this facing in this direction, okay? Yeah. Oh, once it got really exciting.
You know, be interactive.
Yeah, up, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet. There you go. Yeah. 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 All right, we didn't get far to begin with here because we're just trying to set these lines in nicely. We'll get it hot and we'll hopefully attack it a little better this next time. The hotter it is, the easier it is to brush all this stuff off. So if you got a lot of heavy scale, you really want to get rid of it, go ahead and heat it up nice and hot and brush the stuff off. But mostly just clean it up at the end of your hammering. The part that takes the longest in the whole process is creating the shank, that shoulder, the hardy shank, and then upsetting the web down. That's what takes the most work in the whole process. Once you get that accomplished, forging the Bicks on the anvil is just fun. It's just a joy. Later when it's time for drawing. Here, yes, please. Cool. Thank you. Man who's both a fireman and a striker, does he receive double pay?
Double cookies.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Let's hit him hard. Yeah. Yeah, go. Yeah. 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 Ah. Go. 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 Oh, not yet, not yet, not yet. I'm not sitting there. Okay, go. 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 Grab me my calipers. I think we got a ways to go yet, but I just want to check. Not that much. We don't have that much to go. Hang on. We'll. Go. 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 Couple more. Yeah. All right, let me see those calipers. We're really, really close. Like I said, this is over the finished size. I do not want to go to the finished size yet, or we'll blast past it, or we'll leave a cold shot, something of that nature. So stop a little bit shy. I'm going to brush it and hand it to you, Rory. In the interest of time, I'm going to do some drawing on this shank on the power hammer. I guess it would be a good idea to make a real good butcher for this job. Something to use with a sledgehammer. It's the nature of the butcher partly, and also the fact that my eye, when I'm holding it, it looks straight up and down and it kicks out. And that when it looks like I'm tipped way bad, it bites in.
Because you're straight up one side and beveled on the other, when you hit centered on the butcher, you're not centered over the cut.
Right.
And I've been wondering, as watching you, if it wouldn't be better to make the top more T-shaped so that you could bring the hammer over and center over that edge.
Right. I haven't had any.
Or if that would just be non-productive.
With a lot of the power hammer tools I use, I do exactly that. I don't have the whiteboard up, but yeah, I'll draw here. With a lot of my power hammer tooling, say like a thin-bladed hack for cutting. You've got a thin blade hack. I weld a piece of flat bar on there, much wider, so that the power hammer die has a nice surface to contact here and keep that thing straight. It may have a slight crowning to it, a little, not much, but that Nice wide surface, both sides. Yes, that makes real good contact for the power hammer die. When you
Side butcher like you're doing, I wonder if that would really help.
probably would help. So far, I don't have any complaints with this one in the power hammer. But like this, it's a little tough.
You actually slant at the top of the butcher so you were actually hitting right over the cutting edge of the butcher instead of hitting flat. And here's the force would be going more straight down.
Just tilting the sledgehammer in on it.
I don't know.
There's a sweet spot in that tool I need to hit. I found it.
When you guys are striking
Yeah.
and you're standing at the horn, your back is to the camera and the audience.
And the audience? All right. I'll keep out of the way.
Sorry, I know you want to turn the anvil.
You want it higher? Do you want it yellow?
No, that's good. That's good. That will work. Thank you. Really close. I'm a little past there, but that's all right. All right. Rory, let's get it hot again and we'll work with the sledgehammer again. Okay, so what I did is I've reduced my bulk down through here, but I've stayed away from my shoulder. It's still pretty chunky, pretty bulky there. I'm going to come back to the anvil and use the set hammer for doing that. So you can see I haven't hammered in here too much, not with those rounded dies on there. This one you'll notice this is a little bit too loose, so I got to put another one in. But I try to make a tap-in tight fit, and I don't wedge my set tools. I leave them with a longer handle and let them kind of bounce and float around. There's less shock coming through the handle. But this is the best trick that David Norrie ever taught me. He takes old hockey sticks, and he cuts them and he uses them as tool handles for his flatters, various set tools. Really fun. A lot of them come with fiberglass on the sides though. Avoid those. You don't want to be grinding fiberglass to shape the end to fit the eye. So find the ones that are all wood. They're usually laminated one way or the other. That's all right. They're really strong. Great for set tools.
You just use a square die on the rotor hammer when you
Normally, do I use a square die? Yeah, a combo die is real nice for drawing fast, but I like the flat dies for finishing and squaring things up. I like a smooth surface.
just draw this up. Drawing this up.
Yeah, right up by the shoulder. Thank you. There's not a real nice edge here. We're going to go back here. Okay, let's set him in first, okay? Yeah. I'm tilting this a little and kind of setting that shoulder back a little bit because of the butcher cut. Then we're going to come in and hit him hard. Go ahead, hit it hard. Yeah. 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 Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit twisted. I'm going to tilt it at an angle and hit him hard like that. Okay? And like that. Do the same thing here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're getting there. All right. Again. Again. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Ready?
Yeah. So we've got a ways to go yet. A little more on the end. Okay. Move that out of the way. This is really cold for this kind of steel. Tool steels and alloy steels, it's not good to work them at a low heat. You want to work them hot. So I'm going to stop at the moment. You can see we've got a little ways to go to fit in a Hardy shank. Now if I'm undersized down here at the bottom, not a problem, because this is going to be turned into a taper. However, I don't really want to do that right now, because I'm going to take advantage of that nice short blunt mass as a handle for holding in the tongs. And the taper will come later. I'm going to fit it pretty close to the Hardy hole here and then chamfer the edges so that they don't interfere with anything, this anvil or a different one. It's good to have those square edges chamfered off at least a little bit. On one occasion I got a mini cone mandrel and it just didn't quite fit, so I ground a little and it just didn't quite fit and I ground a little more, and finally I looked at it and I ground so much off I thought this can't be right. And that's when it dawned on me it was the sharp square corners on the diagonal that were catching in there. That's what was messing me up, not the sides. I've had too many close calls with ill-fitting tongs. Getting hit in the face by hot metal is not fun. Having a piece of hot metal fly out in the middle of your craft festival and land somewhere amongst the audience is less fun. If the tongs don't fit, by all means stop and either make them fit, modify the tongs. They're tools to do the job, so make them do the job. Modify your tongs so they fit, or make the right tongs. You want to be in control of the material. Cool. Okay, hit hard. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, go for him. Yeah. 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 Again. Let me test it. Pretty close. Let's work it a little bit here. Boy, can hit. That's really, really close. Let's get up here. I'm going to use this as a slightly sharper part of the anvil. Okay, go ahead, Rory.
Ready?
No, I'm not. Thank you. Go ahead. Yeah. A little more. Yeah. Right here. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool. We've got a fairly nice fit there. Don't set that down yet. Like I said, but now I want to chamfer those corners a little. Let's start right here. Yeah. 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 Go ahead and chamfer on the corners with the hammer. Hold. Okay. 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 That's good. We will take care of that. Yes. As Jackson noticed, the shoulder is got butchered a little unevenly here. We're going to take care of that in a minute because we're going to set him down hard to the anvil. I've also got a little twist there. I want to take care of that now. I can see it a little easier if I do it this way. It's tough. Well, get it hot, son. That was sweating? Yeah. Like I said, boy can hit. Very nice. Yeah, let's heat it up at the shoulder, right by the shoulder. I'm gonna take that twist out of there first, but after that we'll set him in the hardy hole. It was nice watching Peter work with calipers the other day and measuring, and on the team project, other people using them. They're a wonderful tool, quick and easy to use. Can save a lot of headaches just to have something simple to check your work as you go along. If I try to rely on my eye, I'll butcher it and I'll say, oh, that's about 1 inch. No, it's 7/8 already. I'm too deep. So having the calipers there and measuring tools to check your work as you go. You're fine, Alan. Please. Turn it 90 degrees. Yeah, it's a little easier to see that way. Set the shoulder in, not the shank, but the shoulder right here. Set that down in, yeah. Because the twist is probably in the web. It's easy to see that when it lines up with the vice jaw this way. Cool. Go ahead and get the shoulder. Actually, let me have him real quick. And then when you heat it up, get the shoulder really hot. Oh, I did have it. Here we go. He's trying to learn. This one's a little warm. I'm going to let him cool down. If you want to take a look at that. There's one thing missing on that tool I normally do with power hammer tools. The handle on it is turned vertical. I did that just for strength there. Normally I don't do that. The flat bar handles are flat when you're holding them. And I take them in the drawing dies here, I heat them up, and I pinch a thin spot in there, about 1/8 of an inch or so, and that acts a little bit like a spring. That helps take some of the shock away. I didn't add this in on this one.
Couldn't you just twist, come back an inch or two and just twist it?
That may happen. I made that recently, and if I get it's too much shock, I'll do exactly that. But having a spring, having a relief in there to absorb the shock when you're working in a power hammer will save you a lot. No. Not yet. Unfortunately, I'm kind of like a hummingbird, and I have to keep eating.
Well, it doesn't
Yes.
show. I have to keep eating too.
My dad always said, if you're gonna watch your figure, get it out there where you can see it.
Yes, in the Hardy, please. All right. I'm going to lean this back this way a little bit because I want to bring it my way somewhat. Okay, go ahead and hit him hard. Yeah, do that again. All right, go ahead and hit it. Yeah. All right, let me look at him. It's pulling a little in the web. Right, hit him hard right there one time. Yeah. Do it again, a little harder. Whoop, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if we can get that to sit down just a little tighter. Hang on a second. I want to make sure I'm not hitting the anvil face. We're close, but hit him, yeah. More than a tap. A little more. I just wanted to set that shoulder down a little bit. Go ahead. I can't reach that one. I'm hitting the anvil. That one's all right. It was the back one. All right. So, well, it looks straight there. Out a little here. What's that? Yeah. This is a little crooked. Yeah, I think you're right. The Hardy shank is off a little bit. We're gonna straighten that up. Yeah. Rory. That's because we're thinking that the Hardy hole is a little out. So we're going to straighten this up. So if you'll heat right at the shoulder again. Yeah. So again, we'll get that shank straightened out a little bit. After that, the tricky part is in upsetting this web down. Now, when you upset it, two things happen. One is it upsets. You'll notice it most here. It will bulge out around on the sides here. That's good. Allow that mass to build. It won't seem like it's getting that much wider here, a little, but you'll notice it more on the sides. But the main thing you'll notice is it'll buckle. So it's a matter of just straightening it back out as you go. Upset, straighten, upset, straighten. All good? I really like these block brushes. These heavy bristles on them, they take scale off really nice. And if you work the material while it's still relatively hot, either red or black heat, and just work it, it leaves a really nice finish on the material. At that point, once it's cold, you can do some light sanding with random orbit sander and a fine sandpaper, or Scotch-Brite on a jitterbug electric sander, or something similar, and you've got a nice finish already. I am not a fan of wire cut brushes on a handheld grinder, simply because although they clean steel off fast, they also smear the surface of the steel. I don't like that. It doesn't make a nice looking finish in the end. It's cool, it's acceptable, but it's not a really nice surface because it's smeared. However, they are very easy to use, very fast. They're great for knocking heavy oxides off of things. Mic about here? No. Okay.
Jen, what did you say this steel was?
4130. And so I looked the specs up on it, and then I disregarded them for heat treating. I believe it says something in there about quenching in oil, and, well, all right, and it'll go nice and tough, not real hard. But you can, if it's not too big, you can water quench this stuff, and it'll go fairly hard and still be real tough. It's not high alloy. It's like 4140, only less carbon. So it makes a nice tough steel.
When you take over that, what
Fill rod, it's the just regular mild steel. It's the same as regular MIG wire, ER0S7-6. Yeah, that's what I used. I tried using stainless steel in the past, and I tried using H12 fill rod when I was welding this H13, and then one day I was like, I was in a hurry, just grabbed what I had. It's so far so good.
if you had 4140, would it be as good, or?
It would be as good. It's more difficult to heat treat. I like 4140. It makes wonderful tools, but it's so touchy in the heat treating. Just a little bit too hot and it will crack. It's touchy. You have to get used to using it. Read the specs on that real careful. I think the quench temperature on that is like 1550 degrees. Don't go much above that. Get used to what that temperature looks like. Soak it at that. Yeah, soak it at that color exactly and quench it at that. Don't get it any brighter. I've broken hammers trying to make them out of 4140 because they were maybe 50 degrees too hot. I don't really know. Not more than 100 degrees too hot, but it doesn't take much. They'll crack. Yes, please. Actually, no. Second thought. Yes, please hand me those. Thank you. We're going to straighten this out by eye right here instead of using the crooked Hardy hole. Right there. Harder. That's pretty good. And of course he lets go of it. I'm used to working with tong rings. I love them. They really save your hands. I like using rings locked on a tong. That's not bad. Let's give him one right here. Carl, you seeing this all right? Cool. All right, that's good. This time around, Rory, let's get the web hot. Go ahead and get the whole web hot. One second. Oh, cool. Thanks, Gordo. Yeah, those are a lot easier to use. These hold it real securely. But there's just not, it's a little tougher to get a hold of it to start with, but they do hold it nicely. These will not. It's nice for maneuvering it around and moving it, and I did refit them so they grab a little more tightly than what they were to start with, but they still do not hold that securely. You want the box-style jaws to hold that web really secure. If you're working something like flat bar in the power hammer, it's a really good idea to use a box jaw tongs. Sorry, Carl, hold them right there. Really good idea to use box jaw tongs. You can see the box lip here that catches on 3 sides, then the other jaw, the flat jaw that catches. They'll hold your work securely when you're working in a power hammer. And flat jaw, regular flat jaws will not do the trick. They'll hold, sooner or later you're going to lose hold of something.
James, what's the source for getting your specs?
You can, I go online and find it usually. There are a lot of sources out there, but there's one, I believe it's called Metal Suppliers Online, I think, and it looks like just a place to register and to buy wholesale metal. But if you look, there's a place there you can type in an alloy number. It says search, you type in an alloy number, and somewhere in the list will play a place and it says to view chemical and physical properties of this material, click here, and they'll pop up and it'll say forging. This is what you do. This is how you do forging, tempering, heat treat. There'll be a whole list of information. A lot of the suppliers and a lot of the metal suppliers have that. If you just type in your alloy number in Google, type in your alloy number and heat treating, there's a good chance something good will pop up. That's what I usually do. I print those off too. When I get them, when I find them online, I'll print the whole thing with a marker, real big, bright, so I can see it. I label the pages with the alloy and I put it in a folder that's just right there by the forge, and I can find it. Let's trade sides. All right, let's look. Okay, we're really coming off sideways on this thing at the moment. Will that fit in there still? No. Rory, if you'll whack that right there, harder. Okay, one more. That's good. That's good. All right, I'm going to take it out and straighten it up a little. Thank you. No. If you'll hit this, let's see. Sometimes you have a spot you just can't quite reach into, and you got to get creative now and then. So I've got me another set hammer here. What we're going to do is a little bit of a juggling act. Sometimes you can improvise. Go ahead and hit that. So that'll reach inside of there. Hit them hard. Yeah. Just trying to get rid of a little bit of a buckle there. You can also set a sledgehammer in a space like that. All at once you've got a narrow anvil that you can reach into a tight spot. Go ahead and get him hot, mostly right down here by the shoulder. This is the trickiest part of the process here. And it takes a number of heats to upset.
Why are you upsetting?
The reason I'm upsetting is that the web there in the rail is really thin and narrow. To me, that's too thin. So we're going to upset the mass down first. Then we're going to drive it in sideways from the cut ends. We'll drive it in. That'll also upset mass in. And that way, we're going to end with a nice, relatively square, heavy stem to it. rather than that real thin web that the rail comes with.
Well, I would think that if you just squish the web in, it'll make it thicker in that
Right.
section.
Right, and it will, yes. But I'm going to upset some more first just to add that mass in there. If you're starting with, say, a 1-inch wide slice, there's not enough to do that. You're going to end up with something that's still pretty light a weight here for the tool you're making. This, like I said, starting with about 1.25 inches, you've got more mass. I still want to upset a little first. Cool. So the goal here before lunch is we're going to try to upset this web down and have it hammered into a square shank as close as we can get anyways before lunch. And then we'll continue on afterwards. Yes. And hammer. Let me grab this. I'm going to take it in a vise for a minute, Rory. One of the easier ways I've found with dealing with this problem. Set them in, clamp them in a vise with a little bit of airspace under the web, and you can move the web. Okay. Okay. A little more here. So the web is straightening back up, which is good. But where the bend is down at the bottom by the shoulder. Think about this for a moment, how I'm going to do this. Okay. Rory, this time around, can you heat right here in the area of the shoulder? Try not to get this web hot up here, because we're going to try and bend it in that area alone.
It was in my seat. I'm
Oh.
right there.
Yeah.
I want it to disappear.
And I'll set it over here so that it doesn't disappear either.
Okay.
From the first one you made, James, to the last one you made, what were some of the things that you corrected for?
Cool. Yeah. The question was from the very first one of these I made till the most recent one I made, what have I corrected for? The very first one I did, first off, I just made it to fit in a Hardy on an anvil at home. It was a little loose, and then that's when I got the idea of creating a long taper on it as well so they can go into a stump, the way most Bick anvils are anyways. They're in their own stump. That was the first thing. I am very fond of this German style, the double Bick. So the first one I made was flatwise here. Then I changed that to the double Bick. Also, I started in setting here, butchering in on here to isolate and create a thinner Bick away from the face. Mostly it was form and stylistic changes, the number one things I did. The biggest change to occur was prior to Rory and I working together to get ready for the conference, the last one of these I made on my own, the first 3 of these I made, I found the slices of railroad rail along the tracks. I have no idea where they came from, what alloy. I did some tests. I oil quenched it. The first one, wasn't happy with the results. It didn't seem to be hard enough. I water quenched it, came out really hard. I tempered it. It was beautiful, loved it. The next two I did, water quenched, same thing. The fourth one came from a different source. I water quenched it. I was listening to it sing when it went in the water. It changed pitch all at once. I thought, that's strange. I pulled it out, and as it was cold, I looked at it, and I said, what's that? There was a crack running all through the thing. So you don't know what these are. Do the tests first. You know, it doesn't hurt to do even the air quench test on the stuff, but at least an oil quench test first and see if it hardens up. The water may work, might be the right thing, but it's really risky. So that's the biggest change I made. I'm oil quenching these now instead of water quenching.
So the one that cracked, did it crack like right along the top?
It cracked across the face, all the way across the face, and then down the length of the Bick, all the way to the end.
Was it used rail?
Yes. No, I don't believe it was, because it was a slice along the rail and it had no deformation. I believe it was brand new rail, cut, and then fitted, and that the slice had never been rolled on, is my belief. Anyways, it's risky, so now I am oil quenching them. We're going to go to the Bick, and if you'll swing the sledgehammer. Yes, please, and then grab it from the shank end, hardy end. Thank you. Wrong tool. Here we go. That'll reach. Yeah. Hard. Cool. One again. Again. All right. Okay. Rory, hammer him right there. Tough to reach. Right there. Again. It's not too far off, except for the hardy. Hit that hard. One more, please. Okay. Trying to just line it all back up against straight. The top is tilted way out. We'll straighten that up. All right, cool. Do what you just did, Rory, except we're going to get the top of it hot this time, okay? They tore up an old set of unused railroad tracks near my work. And so we were going out there during lunch and kind of hanging around and talking with the guys who were working. They got a massive torch. They're cutting sections. They've got a skid steer they're ripping rail up with. It's going to be a bike path now. But we went and talked with them for a little bit. So when they were nearly done, they said, hey, do you want some rails? And I said, yes, please. So they brought 2 10-foot sections over and dropped them off behind the shop for us. Really nice, yeah, because I was wondering for a while, where am I going to get this stuff? Right. And so what I'm doing now, I've got a gas forge, 6 burners, 18-inch deep. I went out there with a torch. I just hacked a 16-inch section off so it'll fit nice inside there. Get it nice and hot in there, anneal it, slice it. But if you go looking for slices, they are out there because they have to slice this stuff. They have to cut it and trim it to make it fit on site, the railroad guys. If you're out there looking, they're cutting it with great big abrasive blades, huge blades. So what I do is I'm jogging along, I keep my eyes open, but if I see a blade, a busted blade or half a blade laying somewhere, I start looking for the slice, because that's why that blade is there. They were cutting the rails. So where's the little slice of the railroad rail? What's that?
Give your secrets away.
Right. All right. Back to about heat treating this stuff. Like I said, I'm oil quenching this stuff now to be on the safe side. This last one I did, I was actually really pleased with the results. What I do to test the hardness after I quench, get it hot, do everything right, quench it, comes out, is it hard? Did it work? I clamp them in a vise and I keep a half-worn smooth mill file nearby. And I check it with that and test it with that. If it just bites away, it's not hard. If it kind of doesn't want to do any work, it's biting a little bit on there, but the metal's resistant. I know it's fairly tough stuff. It's hardened somewhat, pretty tough. And if it just slips, there are times you've hardened something, it's really hard, and the file just slips on it. It's going to take the scale off, and that's all it's going to do. It's not going to cut the metal. That's, you've got something that will fully quench and be really hard. That's what this stuff will do in oil. Quenching it in oil, trying it on the face, and the file pretty much slides off. So it goes really hard. What I do after that, after quenching it, is I heat treat them to 550 degrees. A nice bright blue all the way across. Heat treating or tempering it in a method like what John was doing with the axes would be really difficult. I have not attempted it because the heat, if there's still heat here and you're looking for that to come up and temper the quenched piece, it's got to come up and go all the way out. It's got to spread all the way out there, which means you're going to get the face of the anvil in the middle really hot and much softer before the temperature ever gets out near the ends. Now you could play a torch on it on the Anvil Bicks and speed that up. You could make that work. I use a little electronic heating furnace like the one back here. It's actually a ceramic kiln. I set it for 550 degrees. I chuck them in there about an hour's time. The whole thing's very even. But guess what? Your kitchen oven does that. 550 degrees in your kitchen oven.
Toaster ovens will do it too.
Yeah, toaster oven will work. They check it worked before lunch to, is the toaster oven clear? Or, do I have a piece of metal in there? What's in here,
Toaster oven doesn't take up room in the shop. It's
Right.
supposed to do work.
Right. So I want to find a used kitchen oven one day and put in over by the smithy part of the shop. Microwave? Yeah. Yes.
Is there any timeline between when you oil quench to the time that you could get to tempering? Is there a span of time that's too long or anything, or is there?
No, there's not there's not that I'm aware of. You do want to clean off the face somewhat. I go over to a belt sander. You can do it with a grinder, brick, whatever. I use a belt sander and I brighten up the face a little, and I brighten up a little bit of the horn, at least on the top, so I can see. I can see the temper colors. Yes.
So if I were to, the forge that I have access to is at my work. It's about an hour away from where I live. So if I did this at work and then took it home to put it in my oven,
No
that
problem.
wouldn't be a problem.
No problem. Just don't drop them somewhere along the way.
Don't throw it in the back of the truck as I drive.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem at all. What? Cool.
Did you make the handle on your brush?
Yeah. Yeah, I got the brush from the Gunner boys, so it needed a handle of some sort, so I don't know. Killing time during lunch is what I was doing. All right. Yeah, whack on him there, Rory. Hopefully he'll straighten up a little. Stop there. All right. Hit that hard. Yeah. Yeah. again. All right, let's go here right again. Again. All right, cool. That came down a little too much this way, which is all right by me because we're going to come back on the other side. Right here. All right. Go ahead and heat them up and get the web hot again. I've got a really nice gas forge at work. I usually am working, I make these in the gas forge. I use a power hammer. That is not off, is it? No. But it's not active. Thank you. Yeah, off. I just want it off. I'm used to an air power hammer, but it's a Seha, and it's got its own internal compressor. So as it's running, it's sitting there cycling, and I can see it and I can hear it. So I'm not used to one like this that's just sitting there totally active. And I'll forget about it, and I don't want to leave it where someone can step on it and it's going to act. That's one thing I do like about the one I work with. I can tell when it's on. Everyone knows when it's on. Makes me very unpopular some days. Are we close? Or a little bit of time? Get it nice and even, nice and hot, and nice and even. Scott, what time do we actually have to break for lunch? Quarter? Quarter of. All right, cool. Thank you. Back to the gas forge I have at work. It is a Swan Portaforge, which has 2 burners. It's really nice because it has the 2 burners and they are near the back. And so they create a hot spot in a gas forge. Sometimes that's really inconvenient, but I can make good use of that. So I can, even though it's being heated, the whole thing's being heated in the gas forge, I can still selectively get certain parts really, really, really hot. And it's pretty nice. Now, there's a significant difference between shaping these on the anvil with a striker and shaping them in a power hammer. And that's how you start. Because we started here working on the anvil, the first thing we did is to begin to create a hardy shank so we can sit it in the hardy hole. You don't necessarily have that luxury with the power hammer because it's taller. If I tried that once at work, and by the time I had the shank drawn out, I put it in there and the hammer dies could go clink, clink, clink. Go ahead and hit him hard. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. Let's trade. Very good. Yeah. 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 Okay. Cool. Cool, cool, cool.
You can't hear that power hammer running.
Yeah. Can't hear that one running. Rory, do you have enough room to get in there and hit that? Go ahead and hit hard. Hit him hard. Again. One more. All right. Hit him there. Yeah. Yeah. Right here. Yeah, one more. Okay, right there. All right. All right. Cool. I like that. I'm going to take it out and put it in the vise. Wow, that moved over more than I thought it would. Like I said, this is the challenging part of the process. Getting this upset, getting it nice and straight. Okay. We've got enough mass here to work with. You can see it's widened out there considerably. And when this mass is driven down in the other way, it'll upset. Yeah, you can see in this area here where all of that mass has come out around there. And it's shrunk in considerable ways as well. All right. I'm going to try something a little different here, Rory. Real quick. Grab your sledgehammer. Hit him here. Yeah. Hang on. Really hard. One more. Okay. Go ahead and heat him by the shoulder again. Yeah, please. So what I'm going to do, because we're running lower on time, I'm going to finish the upset actually in the power hammer. I'm going to drive that mass down sideways in the power hammer. Now that we've gone and shut it off. What do I have?
Close this.
Close that,
Turn that.
and then turn that. Thank you. Do you have a little brush of some sort nearby? Or even one of the steel brushes on the Anvil will work. That'll work. So what I was saying earlier about working the power hammer is different. Here working on the anvil, we're shaping the hardy shank first, setting it in the anvil so that we can do our upset. And working in the power hammer, it's different. I start upside down and I do the upset of the web first. This being the original flange, this being the mast that the wheels rolled on. I set him in the power hammer on the die like so, and I start hammering with the web hot. And I work to upset that mast first because I don't have much height room to work in the power hammer, and I'm kind of relying on that flat surface in this to drive that mast down. That's the most efficient way I've found yet, so I reduce that first when I'm working in the power hammer. When I've got that the way I like it, and I shape them in the dies this way also and create my square shank here, that is when I will begin working on this part. So it's a different approach. No, that's good. That's plenty good. Thank you. All right, Rory. Let's do it this way. Hit him there. Ha ha ha. All right, we're going to call that good for right now. Basically, I was just trying to straighten this back up. If I had a little more time, I would also recenter it this way a little more, push it over. Actually, let's do that really quick. Rory, you grab your sledgehammer again real fast.
Okay.
I'll need you on this side over here. Go ahead and drive that one over. 1 second. Let me do something different. Go ahead. One more. Cool. No, right here. Close enough for now. As they say in Virginia, close enough for mountain work. All right. Grab your sledgehammer one more time, Rory. Let's see if there's still enough heat in here to do this. Just go ahead and whack him down. Wait a minute. Yeah, let's do this. Reason we're using a flatter here, one more, that's plenty. Reason we are using a flatter is so that the hammer itself is not beating all these surfaces all up. I want to keep them nice and clean and nice and smooth so that I can forge them into the hammer, the anvil faces later. So the flatter is protecting us. Sorry. All right, just go ahead and get the web really hot for me. We have a few minutes. Get the web really hot and I'll work this in power hammer. I've been trying to keep track when I'm doing this in the shop on my own. How long does it take? My notes have been a little sketchy. I think it's taking me like somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 hours into forging them in the power hammer. And then it's an hour plus to do the heat treating, the filing and grinding in the heat treating. That's a little more time than I want. I'm trying to get a little faster at it. But it's something in that neighborhood. And it was actually comparable working with Rory in making these. The first one we figured out what not to do. And then since then it's picked up speed. So it's kind of comparable. Yeah, go ahead and get it plenty hot. Plenty hot. I know I've been talking off and on about heat treating this stuff, kind of back and forth. Like I said, I don't have the time to actually do the heat treating here, so I'm just describing it. The tricky part with the heat treating on these is getting it to temperature. Like I said, I'm doing the old cliche method of heat the thing unevenly in the fire. It's different heats in different spots, and I'm checking it with a magnet at each of these different colors and seeing where that temperature range is. When I heat it for quench, I go a little hotter than that. I heat it, I try to soak it at that temperature, that non-magnetic, and then I go a little bit hotter and quench. The trick is getting the whole thing even. You want to get your heat all the way across this from Bick to Bick. I don't bring it down into the shank any. I try to get the upper half of the anvil face to temperature. The lower half, if it's temperature or not, okay. But at least the upper, I want the upper half at temperature and all the way across. And I want an even heat all the way across. And that's the trick, because you've got a lot of mass here, very thin. In the gas forge, these ends heat up nice and bright really quick while everything's still cold. So I soak it at a lower heat for some time, let it soak, come up to temperature real nice and slow. Then I raise the temperature of the forge a little bit. And as I near that temperature here, the ends are getting hotter. So it's out of the forge, let the ends cool. They cool quickly back in the forge. And it's that dance. It's in and out, while the middle comes up to temperature. That's one method I've been using. The other is I take a piece of pipe of a diameter large enough to slip over the Bicks, and I cut it just a little longer, and I slip it on them, chuck it in the fire. So I get it, I preheat it, let the whole thing soak first. When it gets up to a nice glowing red, it's not quite the right temperature. Then I slip those pieces of tube on, bump the forge temperature up a little bit, and start heating. Those act as insulators. I'm insulating the thin ends of the Bick while the face has a chance to heat up. That's another method of doing that. But you want to get that even heat all the way across it. That goes fast in those full ring dies. All right, Rory. This is where it's a little tricky. You know what? Actually, I'll do this right here. I'm hitting the end here, the edge of the hammer die, which is not good. All right. That's a different shape. It's kind of got some curvature to it, but that's not bad. Each one of these I make comes out a little different, and I don't dislike that by any means. Let me brush it up a bit, and then I'll hold it here again so you can see a little more clearly. There's a little bit of straightening up to do. It's curved a bit under the power hammer. Rory, can you grab your sledgehammer real fast? Whack him. Right there. I've got a slight twist to it I can take care of in a bit. Like I said, so far each one's been coming out a little bit differently. These are pretty curved hammer dies, a little different than I'm using. But it's much more nearly a square in underneath of the anvil here. I don't dislike that. That's kind of cool. In fact, if it was chamfered a little bit, that would even add to it somewhat. I'm not going to fool with that, but I think chamfering would be neat on it. The ram came down and clipped right here on the end of the flange of the rail. I chewed it a little, not too bad. Didn't fold anything necessarily, but if you ever have a problem with that, file it off right away. If you got a fold, anything that looks like a fold might become a cold shut, get a file or grinder out and just get rid of it immediately. And then keep on forging. I think we'll call that pretty good right now at the moment. So that is our start. We've got the basic form for our Bick going. We've got our hardy shank going. We'll continue on after lunch. Basically, this piece here will get turned into the Bicks, and once that anvil face portion is complete, that's when I turn it around and I hammer the taper in the hardy shank, because this is convenient to hold as it is for right now, and that long taper would be in the way. So, part the way there.